Kerala is to much of the hinterland of India what Dubai was to Kerala at one point of time, and it is a place where you can make a quick buck, and then send it back home. So the Kerala finds itself now flooded with migrant, we call them guest workers, labor coming in from all parts of the country, starting from Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, Odisha, Bengal. So mostly from the south and the east, east and northeast. And you find that they bring in with them, on that count too, they bring in with them a very new set of interesting dynamics and challenges. So one is the fact that a lot of Keralites have suddenly learned to speak Hindi. Another is that hotels across the state now offer a very interesting and varied variety of cuisine. So it's from a very strictly Keralite or South Indian cuisine has become fairly multicultural. Today, some of our public spaces are almost completely taken over on holidays by people who have taken a holiday from their work, but who do not belong per se to originally to Kerala. So you find the streets flooded with Bengalis and Odias, and the theatres too flooded on that account. What I'm just pointing out to is the fact that there is this, whether we like it or not, there is a dynamic that is changing, and it's something that we need to accommodate. We are already seeing it in the challenges that it is bringing upon habitation. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. It's just that I'm just getting these persistent calls are coming in. So, the migrant urbanizing factor is something that Kerala needs to look into. This has implications in the way work gets done, because the quality and quantum of work has exploded, and this is the value that these communities bring to the state. It also means that there is another, we have, by virtue of so much of labor coming in and of staying on for periods of time, there are also opportunities in terms of work and services that can be provided to them. And that itself generates a lot of local demand. These are positives that we generally tend not to see, because we are overwhelmed by the challenges that they bring, because it means it is a strain on already strained resources, that our waste management goes for a 6, that water supply gets diminished, etc. And this again is in the backdrop of increasingly understood and feared climate implications of change. So when climatic conditions change, and Kerala is a very vulnerable state, we find ourselves tottering from very severe floods to in one year to very severe drought in another. The 60% deficit of rainfall suddenly hitting us from a point where we had 40% excess of rainfall the year before, and the state's nature of the topography being such that we have the fastest exit of water from the mountains to the sea. So there's very little water that we are able to conserve and manage. Although we appear to be extremely green and extremely blue, in the so and very burdened as a population. But that hides the the very fact that you have been blessed also means that you're very unprepared to handle extreme situations. And this obviously will impact city areas the most, urban areas the most, which would be the most unprepared. So this is again something that needs to be worked upon. A third area that I would like to focus on is the underbelly, the poor and the invisible of the among the urban populations. So you will find that a lot of people who have nowhere to go will end up on the streets of urban cities. Many of these people would actually qualify as the poorest of the poor. And Kerala has had a very strong track record of social reform, on account of which today it is stated that they have a multidimensional poverty of less than 1%. This has been because of its very robust social security initiatives and the protection that are provided. This protection right now also, I would like to point out, extends only to the native Keralite, not to the guest worker. Although the system is now trying to find out how to address the concerns of the guest worker, also how to address the welfare and development concerns of the guest worker, and not just to make sure that they do a good job and leave. To leave it those basics. So, and therefore we have actually come out with an agenda of making Kerala completely poverty-free within the next couple of years, for which the effort was made to look at urban poverty and the dimensions of urban poverty, and incorporate that into understanding who constitute the poorest among the urban poor. And they have now been identified, and entire family plans have been made for these families, and the state, the various departments of the state, from health to food safety to education to industries, livelihoods, etc., are all working in tandem to bring these families out of poverty. So again, it is actually this messy local democracy that Kerala practices, which makes all of this possible, which makes it possible to bring in, to actually converge various departments and the way they think and function into one entity. Now, when we think planning, we need to understand these realities when we are working out on the plan. I remember in our discussions that we had for Resilient Kerala in our climate adaptation interventions and disaster management, international experts telling us that it was of the utmost importance that we came out with plans that were not perfect, but were practical and implementable. Because a pragmatic plan which has partial success is much better than a perfect plan which does not get off ground at all. And that has been a problem with planners and with the way the system works, because we think of the ideal state and we create the ideal state. And then the ideal state remains on paper. It has been something which will be, so it is important to figure out what will work and to what extent you can push and what are the compromises that need to be made. It is important to recognize also that local communities and local leadership, and maybe even more than that, state leadership, all of them come in with perhaps not theoretical knowledge, but certainly with a lot of experiential knowledge. And it is important to incorporate that experiential knowledge into the way we make our plans for resilience. It is important to recognize the systems and institutions that are already at work. When I was introduced, there was mention about my having been the head of Kudumbashree. So Kudumbashree is this gigantic women's network which is available in urban and rural localities. It is ubiquitous. It spreads across the state. Right now, there are close to 50 lakh women or 50 lakh families, which is more than half the state of Kerala, who are represented in this network, which is very vibrant. Planning needs to look at what this network is capable of doing by way of dissemination, by way of local economy, boosting the local economy, by way of protecting initiatives, by looking at palliative care, by looking at even looking at gap filling in terms of various possibilities that there are for growth. So I will just stop here because I know I put in quite a few things quite haphazardly. My apologies. But I will just stop here and hope that the discussion touches at least on some of these and takes it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words. We will surely take it ahead with us. Next, we have a privilege of introducing our keynote speaker, Ms. Victoria Hills, Chief Executive, Royal Town Planning Institute, who will also be joining us online. Ms. Victoria Hills brings over 25 years of experience in planning, transport, leadership, and development to her role. She worked for all three mayors of London and led the UK's largest regeneration project at Old Oak, establishing the Old Oak and Park Royal Mayoral Development Corporation. In her current role, she advocates for the importance of planning in government, focusing on quality living spaces. As part of her role, she leads the RTPI's corporate strategy. Under her leadership, RTPI's membership has grown by 8% since 2018. Ms. Victoria is also active in various advisory boards, serves as a commissioner on the Essex Climate Action Commission. In her spare time, she volunteers as a safeguarding assistant for her children's rugby team and enjoys staying active and fit. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I'm hoping that you can all hear me very loud and clear. I'm delighted to be joining you this afternoon here from London. And thank you for the very kind invitation to join this very esteemed discussion this evening. Firstly, may I offer my congratulations to all of you who have been involved in putting together this impressive programme, this impressive dialogue, which is very important. There are many challenges that we'll get on to where we think planning can play a very positive role in addressing. And I think the opportunity for international exchange and sharing knowledge and different perspectives is something to be very much welcomed, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to be joining you on behalf of the Royal Town Planning Institute. For those of you who have not heard of us or are not familiar with us, we are the professional institute for chartered town planners in the UK, in Ireland, but also internationally. We are in 80 countries now. We have 27,000 members. And we're very keen to strengthen our links globally with many of you on the call. So I hope this will be the start of a conversation. In a UK context, we are effectively the regulator for planning standards. We support members by bringing them into the profession, take them all the way through with their training, their development, their networking, their learning needs. But we're also a learned society, which means that we do research for the public good. We fund that ourselves.
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. Can you put on your video on so that our guests can see?
Okay, I thought I had my video on. Let me just turn it on and off. It could just be that it's playing up. Just bear with me.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. No.
I'm so sorry. Can you see me now? Well, I will try again. I will try again. Let's try again. It's I thought it was all working very well. I could see myself, and then now I can't. I would just try. I'll try turning my camera on and off, and let's put it back on again and see if that works. It could just be the connection. Shall I carry on speaking? There, I can see myself. I'm not sure if you can see me.
Yes, now it's visible, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So where was I? Yes, I was just introducing the Royal Town Planning Institute and congratulating you on the opportunity for this international dialogue. And it's a really important one because, as you all know, many of you professionals, but also students, according to the UN projections, 70% of the global population will be living in cities by the year 2050, which really isn't that far away. And so the challenges of rapid urbanization, adapting to climate change, the impacts of human activity on ecosystems, food security, inadequate infrastructure, increasing energy demands, addressing social injustice. All of these are big, big challenges. And we very much see planning as being the driver for delivering the sustainable future agenda. And indeed, the UN's agenda for 2030 is set out according to 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And of those goals, SDG 11 is our sort of guiding principle, if you like, which is by 2030, the ambition is to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And so reflecting on how to do that, it's been very much part of our research program. This year, we've been looking at how cities can be resilient and adapt to some of those factors for climate change, but also resilient in terms of food production. We've been looking at how to ensure places are more inclusive, so ensuring there's effective community engagement in the business of plan making. We've been looking at infrastructure in its broadest sense, particularly looking at the need for green infrastructure as we start that transition away from fossil fuels. And we've been very much looking at health and well-being, and planning being a real conduit for that. Before I bring it back to a very UK context, one thing I would like to reflect on and share with you is some work that we did in the lead up to COP26, which was to publish our response to urban planning after the pandemic to support sustainable recovery. And I think many of the aspects that we talked about, which I'll come on to in a moment, are very relevant for the challenges that I've heard about already in the opening dialogue. And I should have said, actually, in my introduction, that I had the great honour and pleasure of visiting Kerala back in 2001. It seems a very long time ago now, but I was visiting Mumbai and took the opportunity to fly down to Kerala. And what a beautiful state it is. And I'm very envious of those who have that great honour and pleasure of planning its resilient, sustainable future, albeit there are significant challenges that we have just been hearing about. So in looking at how to plan a sustainable future, how to emerge from the pandemic and take sort of lessons learned about what we might do differently, our research really looked at sort of three big priority areas. And I was just going to say a few words about those. Particularly, one thing I think we found in the UK context, and I'm sure that you found there, is that the pandemic and all of the associated restrictions really shone a light on just how important resilient and healthy, sustainable communities are, and really shone a light on the areas where perhaps we needed to do more to improve people's quality of life. So we looked at emerging issues on how we can do things better going forward. And the first area really related to housing, health and well-being. And looking at those disproportionate impacts on the vulnerable groups, particularly older people, particularly people living in slums, particularly those living in deprived neighbourhoods, and thinking a primary objective coming out of the pandemic and rebuilding for sustainable futures has to be to provide truly affordable and healthy homes, housing. And that's really got to be a primary objective for us globally in responding, is actually being able to provide that basic shelter, and healthy homes is a hot topic in the UK, because we have different climate challenges in the UK, and some of our homes are always not as healthy as they should be. Some in particular suffering from damp, lack of insulation, and it can have big impacts on the health, which meant those people that were living in unhealthy homes were more impacted by the pandemic because they were more susceptible to getting ill and for longer. The second area that we've looked at sort of coming out the pandemic is the impact on the economy and production and consumption. And what we have seen in the UK context is there have been some changes in lifestyle and different changes in consumption patterns, and that's having a big impact on how we plan our cities. And to put that very practically, there's a very big dialogue going on in the UK context at the moment, which is how can city centres be sustainable if people only go into the office 2 or 3 days a week? You know, businesses that used to rely on workers going into cities 5 days a week are finding it's less viable. For example, restaurants or dry cleaners, hairdressers, all the associated tertiary services that we find and need in city centres are now struggling with some of the fallout of how people are working. And that is having a direct impact on how we plan our cities and relevant and attractive when they're not used in the same way. And if I'm honest with you, in the UK context, we're still grappling with those issues and working out what the future looks like. But planning has to be a key part in responding to that. I'll come back to that point. And the third cluster really focuses on travel and urban infrastructure. And what the lockdowns in the UK context highlighted significantly was that there was a big inequality in accessibility to some of that infrastructure. Some communities were able to get on with daily lives reasonably well with good access to transport or services near them, and others really weren't. And I think as we look to plan sustainable communities going forward, we've got to look at those access to services within that, absolutely within that mix. So we're taking a lot of lessons from the pandemic and thinking ahead to the future is how can we build in resilience to the planning of our places going forward. And I think I would just reflect in a UK context, the origins of planning legislation over 100 years ago really came out of the Public Health Act. And planning had moved further and further away from public health over the course of the last century. And what the pandemic has forced us to do is remember the origins of good placemaking, of good planning, actually came from the need to improve people's public health. So in the UK context, we've gone a full circle back round to improving public health. By having good plan making and good placemaking, we can really work to put health at the heart of communities. And I apologise if my camera's not working here. I have tried turning it back on again, but hopefully you can all hear me clearly. So if we fast forward to 2023, and for many of us, the pandemic seems a distant memory now. You know, life is very busy. Everybody's getting on with the business of their daily lives. But where are we now? Well, in a UK context, we are running full throttle towards a general election. The date hasn't been called yet, but it's it's highly likely it's going to be happening next year in 2024. And so this provides us with the opportunity to set out what we would like to see the political parties putting at the heart of their manifestos for planning. And we have just launched our what we're calling Planifesto. Hopefully you can see what we've done there with the title. But we have done that because there are major party conferences going on this weekend and next weekend, where we have the opportunity to sit down with politicians and say and present to them sort of our top asks for how we can build in that resilience to sustainable placemaking going forward. And I would just like to run through a few of those before I move to draw this to a conclusion. But number one has to be improving our quality of life and quality of places. And what we're very keen on doing in the UK is ensuring that communities can benefit from new development, and ensuring that rather than just talk about the need for community infrastructure, that we actually see development as a way of enabling it and helping to fund it, helping to deliver it. But also in providing those quality of life places and communities, we have to have that clear commitment to infrastructure. And even if it's not funded, setting out the route map for what is needed, and whether that be renewable energy or other types of sustainable technology. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to promote safe and sustainable homes. You would think that safety is, a given, but actually we do need to keep. We need to remind ourselves in the fallout from some very unfortunate business in the UK. Many of you will be aware of the Grenfell disaster that saw many people lose their lives in an unfortunate fire of a council block back now nearly 7 years ago. And that has resulted in delivery of new legislation to improve standards. But we really do need to ensure that greater weight now is given to these factors in building sustainable homes, high quality, going into the future. And part of that has to be about leadership locally. So our third area is giving places and their leaders the tools to grow. And I think we heard some reference to this in our previous speaker. But actually having locally elected leaders really committing to using their full planning powers to deliver very coherent urban growth that looks at a systems approach that brings in all the factors related to planning, older people housing, health provision, education, transport, in a very systems approach, and having that devolved local responsibility, local accountability, we think is going to be really, really important, as is the fourth area, which is making what we have go further. We, like many nations, are under incredible inflationary pressures at the moment. Everything seems to be getting more and more expensive, and yet we've got so much to do. So how do we get on with the business of retrofitting our buildings to higher environmental standards? How do we get on with the business of remediating brownfield? Well, we're going to have to work in a very partnership-based approach with the private sector, whilst not losing sight of what it is we're trying to do in delivering better outcomes to help unleash planning's full potential. And we think we can do that by requiring professionally qualified chief planners to be in every council. It's very important that you have, the right level of seniority within local government, within regional government, where somebody's taking the responsibility of planning and placemaking really seriously at a senior level, so that they have the authority to pull together with their counterparts who are responsible for, environmental health, education, and so on, to actually pull it together, to work together on a comprehensive plan to deliver better outcomes for communities, whether that be pooling together funding, whether it be pulling together existing schemes. But really, overall, all of this, at the heart of it, sits the community, and actually getting the community far more involved, and working out what they would like to see, how they would like to plan for the future, is going to be a key part of it. So to sum up, our top kind of priorities, if you like, our asks to our government in the UK, but I think they're very valid and relevant to an international context, is number one, invest in planning. That's investing in your people to do the planning, investing in the processes to enable you to produce documents digitally, and in hard copy to engage with the communities, and invest in preparing a plan. And I very much like what the previous speaker said. It doesn't have to be the perfect plan, but it needs to be moving in the direction that recognises that it's a spatial land use plan is so much broader than just zoning buildings, for example. It's about joining the dots across the other public service areas. Number two, it's about empowering communities and getting them involved and helping to shape the future. Number three, it's about strong leadership. Yes, you need strong leadership, but they also need those local tools for delivery. And in a UK context, that means planning powers devolved locally, but it also means borrowing powers. To deliver infrastructure, it's expensive. To deliver it ahead of development, it's very tricky. But actually having greater fiscal levers to enable local leaders to borrow to help deliver that infrastructure for communities and to pay it back over longer periods of time is going to be, really quite important. And number four is planning for net zero. If we don't plan and move to a transition, then we're going to see more and more of the impacts, which aren't just impacts in the global south. The climate change and impacts are already here for all of us. And I think it surprised many of us just how quickly this has now become a reality. And we're talking about mitigation and adaptation as well as planning for net zero. And I think, in summary, resilient urban economies are going to be those that really embrace the sustainable development goals. Resilient urban economies are going to be the places that take a systems approach to planning. Resilient urban economies are going to be those places that put the community at the heart of their plans, but come up with that spatial plan for the future that seeks to join the dots across the other areas of public service delivery in a very collegiate, collaborative way that we know planning is and planners are. And at the heart of that really sits leadership. So thank you so much for listening to my keynote. I hope in having a bit of a tour through some of our considerations about how to plan resilient futures and what we're asking for our government in the future, I will have helped to set the scene perhaps for what is going to be an interesting session ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the exposure and the insights that you have gave us today. Now, let's welcome our first discussant, Dr. Lakshmi Ramasubramaniam, Professor of San Jose State University and President, Association of Collegiate Schools of Planning, who will be sharing her insights with us online. Professor Lakshmi Ramasubramaniam, PhD, AICT, is an architect and a urban planner. She has an extensive experience in using a GIS concepts and tools to facilitate community-based planning and policymaking. She currently serves as the Chair of Department of Urban and Regional Planning at San Jose State University. She was the first urban planner to serve as a president of University Consortium for Geographic Information Science, UCGIS, served as a member of National Geospatial Advisory Committee from 2016 to 2018. The NGAC is a federal committee that provides advice and recommendations on national geospatial policy and management issues. Dr. Lakshmi has authored GIS and public participation and co-authored Essential Methods for Planning Practitioners with Dr. Johan Halbert, both published by the Springer. Now I request you to take over to you, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here. It's in the morning here in San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley. I thank the organizers for inviting me and making it possible for me to share my thoughts. Allow me to share my screen. Moment. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. So I'm going to talk about the education space because that's the area I know best. So I want to talk about co-producing knowledge for action and thinking about the future of planning, practice, and education to build resilient urban economies. So first, I believe I've been invited because of my role as the president of the Collegiate Schools of Planning. We are an alliance of over 100 urban planning programs in the US and Canada. We are here to serve educators and students. And we meet once a year in an annual conference. We're meeting in a couple of weeks in Chicago. And basically, that's where we dialogue and come together to talk about the issues. And so I'd encourage you to give ACSP a checkout and maybe make it to a future conference. But I also thought I should contextualize myself, right? So the bio, my colleague read out my bio and she talked about my interest in GIS. But basically, I've always been interested in thinking about technology and its place in urban planning and policy. So this slide, this Venn diagram kind of represents who I am and my work. And so just to situate my comments. And this slide to me is a bunch of pictures from different projects I've done in my travels, but it really encapsulates to me the complexity of the enterprise that we all have chosen to work in planning. And basically, planning is about people and place, but it's multi-scalar. And so as my colleague previously said, it takes a systems approach to do planning. But let's explore a little bit how planning theory has evolved. And please remember, my comments are US-centric, but you may recognize the similarities with what's going on in India, because India, like many other countries, has been influenced by planning theories and ideologies from the West, and that has been in some ways good for us and in some ways harmful. And so that's something useful for the Indian students to keep in mind. So if you look back, we had the whole rational technical world of planning, and that went on for a very long time. And that is what Ms. Sarada was talking about the ideal of making a perfect plan. And these perfect plans assumed that they could hold things constant or that the world would remain unchanging. And in doing so, the plans were beautiful, but they sat on a shelf. In the 80s and the 90s, in the US at least, we moved away from that kind of rational technical planning to think about the idea of planning through engagement, by debate, by conversation, by challenging authority, and by dialoguing, which is great, but it sort of ignored the spatial aspect of planning, which then re-emerged in the 90s and the 2010s in different ways to talk about new urbanism, quality of life in public spaces, and really bringing back design, architecture, and taking a more holistic view of planning. At the moment, we are talking a lot about social justice, equity, and inclusion, factors that in the US have been brought to light because of the pandemic, which was worldwide, but also because of the complex racial and cultural unrest that has happened since and during the pandemic. So if that's the past, then let's talk about what's going on now and in the future, right? You've heard this already as planners and architects, and your professors have talked to you about this. Urbanization is a reality, but it's also a challenge. In the US, urbanization itself results in what I'm framing as two sub-challenges. One is the issue of managing and combating sprawl. In a vast country like the US, there is still a belief that there is land to spare and that we can just sprawl and settle wherever we please. And that is not the case, but that's a tension. The other piece is the neglect of our critical infrastructure. And that is a US problem. I'm not sure how things are in India, but that's something that you have to think about in the context of urbanization. The other reality is, and I think this is a global reality, you have to think about demography. And in the US, the society is aging. It's quite different. The demographic challenges in India are quite different, but that's something to think about as you think about global challenges. And then the need to serve diverse populations. Ms. Sarada talked a little bit about how Kerala is being transformed by people coming into Kerala in search of work. The US has that challenge as well. You probably have seen the images of the migrant crisis in the southern border of the United States. But the people who come need to be served. The people who come,
Secretary.
hello? Okay. The people who come need to be served. Let me also talk about then the challenge that you also talked about, climate change. And as you think and plan for climate change, you want to focus on the most vulnerable populations and the vulnerable regions, recognizing that the impacts of climate change are felt differently depending on where you are. It might be extreme heat, it might be sea level rise, it might be a whole host of factors that have to be place specific. I seem to have bumped over a slide, and that, let me see if I can get back to that one. The last but not the least, we have a challenge with the emerging AI landscape that is already here. Especially as somebody who lives and works in Silicon Valley, I can tell you that AI is established and geo-AI tools are being deployed in different sectors of our society, and that has an impact on how we think and plan for resilient urban economies. There are positive effects of AI, and there are many negative effects of AI. So let me talk a little bit about inequities, because we talk broadly about inequities in we need diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our field, planning, at least in the US, is still predominantly male and predominantly white. And that is a challenge for us in the US as we struggle to make it more diverse. And if you see this picture in the middle of this, I pulled off a subway poster in New York, and it's basically an image of what somebody thinks planning is about. And I don't know about you, but I don't think anyone uses a drafting board. And it's certainly not something, we don't draw our cities anymore. Suddenly, we know and recognize that cities are complex, our urban environments are complex. And in the education space, I can tell you, our students tell me that education is expensive and planning doesn't pay. And so while our previous speakers talked a lot about, hey, we need to staff every city council with a planner, and we need to encourage planning to be recognized and understood at every level, which I totally support, there's a staffing shortage, that planners are not to be found in city government offices in the US, because there's a tension between how we value and compensate planners in government. So that's a sidebar. But let's talk about so if you're not going to be in city government, you're going to do planning work, what are the challenges you're likely to encounter? There are three main challenges that I see. One is this idea of the death of expertise, death in quotation marks, because it's really hard to demonstrate now what unique expertise planners bring to the table. It's very easy, or relatively easy, to say, when I'm sick, I go to a doctor. There's a certain kind of expertise that the doctor has that the everyday person doesn't have. But when we as planners go into communities and say, let me tell you what we can do for our community, people say, hey, what makes you so special? What do you know? What are you offering to us? And that's something we have to keep in mind. The second question is about participation. Do we talk to everyone? Do we listen to everyone? And last but not the least, the need to build trust, because trust in government, trust in planners, trust in process is low, at least in the US. And I'm not sure how it is in India, but you may want to think about that as an issue, and the need to be transparent. So for me, to build a resilient future, to plan a resilient future, we need to think about these four things, right? We have lots of knowledge and expertise, and I believe that I'm an educator. I prepare students with a certain set of expertise. They know how to read plans, they know how to understand zoning codes, they know how to look at performers, and a whole lot of things, right? But how do they take that knowledge, and where and how do they intervene? And that's a question that planners must understand, and educators must also understand. We need to help also create more non-hierarchical ways of engagement. So Ms. Sarada talked about where democracy is messy, and I think democracy being messy is good, but we also need to make sure that everybody has a voice in that democracy. And so it's our job to serve those vulnerable populations. And last but not the least, to think about how can we work collaboratively with communities to solve problems. So to being adaptable rather than saying we have an expertise to hand down to you. So in sum, thinking about planning and reframing it a little bit as understanding people's relationship to place in both real and virtual settings in a very data-rich environment. So that's how I'm thinking about planning at the moment. And I think that's what planning will be in the future, which is slightly different from talking about it as a a sort of a set of principles that have to be adhered to achieve particular goals. So in terms of co-creating knowledge, which I believe will lead us to this resilient urban future, I believe we need to move from problem solving to problem framing. What I mean by that is to say, not to accept the way the problems have been framed to us. So at the moment, you can talk about, in any space, there is a given narrative. A given narrative is sometimes top down, but it's also a narrative that's provided by elites. And so I think planners have a task to balance those top-down narratives and create new narratives in consultation with the communities they serve. And so as you learn to serve the public interest, which is one of the hallmarks of at least American planning, then to think about that there are multiple publics out there and not just a singular public. And so holding on to that thought, I would say new futures for planning, particularly planning education, requires engagement, building the pipeline. So it's not enough to serve the university sector, but also to go and introduce planning in elementary school, middle school, high school, and so that that culture of planning is in place, and to balance technology with face-to-face engagement, because technology ain't going away, and to be aware of culture shifts in the profession. So let me stop there, and I look forward to having a discussion if there's an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing us your views on global changes and understanding the people-place relationship and how to deal with those. So now I request our esteemed guest present here with us to take seats on the dais. M. Anil Kumar sir, Deepti Varghese madam, Koshi sir, please take your seats. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker for today, Advocate M. Anil Kumar, Honorable Mayor of Kochi, who is present here with us, will be addressing shortly. He is a lawyer by profession. Sir has almost 30 years of experience in the public realm. He debuted as a councillor at a very young age of 25. At Kochi Act, he was elected for the 4th time to the Council of Kochi Municipal Corporation, this time to be sworn in as the mayor of the city. Before taking up the reins of the city administration, he held the post of Works Standing Committee Chairman of Kochi Municipal Corporation from 2008 to 2010. He has been instrumental in leading ongoing substantive change, institutional transformation in the city through effective leadership and guidance. As a mayor with rich experience in local government system and inclusive planning principles, he is committed to improving the health, education, agriculture, livelihood of the people in the city, and promoting a job creation and youth empowerment. He has been a part of prestigious Mayors Academy organized by United Nations. He held a very predominant position as a syndicate member of Mahatma Gandhi University. He is a general council member of Center of Indian Trade Unions. He is also a leader of trade unions of public sector enterprises such as Cochin Shipyard Limited, Naval Base, and much more. He holds a Master in Law from Cochin University of Science and Technology, which he completed with a scholarship from Ministry of Human Rights and Copyright Law. So, can you please join us?
Thank you, everybody. It has been a wonderful, privileged opportunity to stand before you in a university to address the students. And I'm very happy that me and Deepthi or Mary Varghese are the laymen out here, because everybody else who has been speaking and who's sitting before me, you are in the academic arena, but we are totally different persons. People from the public, from the raw public, immersed in political work. As Sharada Muralidharan was telling, not perfect planners, but pragmatic people who can see what the people wants, sometimes failing out to make perfect planning. So I'm sorry that whatever I speak may not be so fine-tuned, professionally equipped. And I don't know whether I am a lawyer by profession. I'm sorry, because I'm nothing by profession, I would say. I'm simply a political worker. So now I'll directly go into the subject, because the problem is that the moderator is very close to the mic. Earlier, he didn't have any chance to intervene, but now he may use his power as the former additional chief secretary of Gujarat. So I want to be very fast. So I'll cut across my points very fast. See, first of all, I would approach the subject in a different way, because what is nature and what is the relation of nature with people, with society, with the way the human mankind has emerged. Now, to see nature as something different, to talk about resilience now, after growing out of centuries of growth, you are telling, now you are speaking about nature. I believe that nature and society are not completely antagonistic to each other, because nature is bound to be influenced by people, by humankind. This is how we grow. To put it short, you have seen floods, you have seen lightning. In earlier days, the people thought that lightning is the sword of the Indra that is coming out. But finally, we came to know that lightning is something, it has a scientific explanation behind it. You are now being able to predict floods, but I couldn't predict any flooding in Kochi. The moment I left Kochi, rain started pouring out for 3 or 4 hours. In the last monsoon, we didn't have anything, but now it is flooding in Kochi. So these are the gaps that we have. But still, what I am telling you is that, see, whatever you talk about nature, I believe that it should be resilient, and I believe that you should intervene in nature, because humans are the only distinct race in this whole universe that doesn't simply bow before the might of nature. So I am not a pure environmentalist. I am a pragmatic person. That is my first point. So I have been telling all these points from a particular book, which I don't want to quote, because I don't know how receptive the CEPT University will be. You can go and find out from where I'm talking, from which book I'm quoting. So I'm leaving that. See, Kerala, I would say that, and Kerala, I would say that we have fought the floods. Even a film is shoot about what has happened in Kerala, and it has now been enlisted in the Oscar. So I believe that Kerala is a place where we have shown the whole world that how we will bounce back. Even COVID we had COVID, you had everywhere. But Kerala was a typical case. All the speakers before me were telling that how Kerala was acting, how Kerala was doing its resilience, how we were managing our affairs. And even the Nipah, it came again. It's the second time that Nipah is happening again in Kerala, but we could control the Nipah also. Now, I don't want to in length explain of how we are combating climate change, how we are trying to be resilient and all that. Kochi has its own problems. You had the fire at Brahmapuram. Actually, the mayor doesn't want to speak anything of Brahmapuram, but it's not a good thing to speak. But still, I believe that we are now coming out of the messy state of affair that we have. And Sharada Muralidharan was telling about a messy politics, messy democracy, that is what she was telling. See, understand, I come from a messy atmosphere, political atmosphere, where the mayor doesn't have a simple majority. I'm the first mayor of Kochi who doesn't have a political front, doesn't have the simple majority. But even after 2.5 years, I'm continuing. And I have brought Deepthi Mary Varghese also with me. You were telling that she is from my opposition. I won't say that she is from my opposition. She simply sits on my right-hand side. That's the only difference. So anyway, what I'm telling you is that, see, we have our experiences of how we bounce back. I don't want to go into details. And a small bit of difference from what Sharada Muralidharan is speaking. I would be very quite open to say that Kerala doesn't want to boast always of our strength. We know that we have difficulties, we have problems, we have to learn from other places, and that is the only reason why the Kochi mayor is in the CEPT University and in Gujarat, because I am even ready to learn from any place and not learn everything from every place, but whatever I feel has persuaded me, I am ready to do it. That is why Malayalis are there everywhere. I was joking a bit in somewhere before in the NID that when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, he saw a tea shop that was run by a Malayali in the moon. That is why I am quite confident, because many of the students who will be sitting here will also be Malayalis. So this is a strength that we have. So I also want to learn from whatever experiences are there everywhere. See, Rebuild Kerala initiative is one of the important initiatives that came after the floods of 2018. How the Kerala government was trying to bounce back the Pamba River Basin project. I don't want to go into any depth into these projects. The only thing is that, supposing on a later day when your dams, the shutters have to be opened and you have incessant rain that is coming up, how you are going to manage the whole state of affairs. That is what Pamba River Basin project is all about. How you are going to manage your rivers, how you are going to manage the way the water flows, because the water is so powerful that it can even pierce metal. So that's the power of water, and we saw it in front of our eyes, what happened during the floods. So this is one of the important project. Now, she was mentioning, when she was reading out my brief biodata, a pampered biodata to a certain extent, but the HEAL project, health, environment, agriculture and livelihood. This is something, HEAL Kochi, is something this council is trying to promote in Kochi. That is, whatever you do, it should be a healthy initiative. Whatever you do should be environmentally friendly. Whatever you do, there should be some bit of agriculture in that. And whatever you do, there should be a bit of livelihood in that. So when you are managing your waste, you should think about these 4 points. That is what HEAL Kochi is all about. And that is what inclusiveness is all about. We also started another program called the Sustainable Neighborhoods. That was with Fraunhofer from Germany. The only thing that we did is that a small initiative, a mini school initiative, wherein we selected some 20 or 30 houses. We started having rainwater harvesting there. We started having solar paneling there. Even though we have so much water with us, we are abundant in electricity, we tell, but now we are facing shortage. And we are having solar panels there in all these houses, bringing technology into its fold, having manure, having manure from the whatever wet waste is there, using the wet waste for agriculture, that is urban agriculture on your rooftops. So this is how we were placing the sustainable neighborhoods. So now if you can extend the sustainable neighborhoods more, so that the whole city becomes a sustainable neighborhood program. Now, I want to explain to you, I have to mention to you about what Netherlands has been doing. Netherlands is more or less similarly poised with Kochi, with the type of topography they have, the kind of rainfall they receive. And I've learned from experience that Netherlands has been doing this Room for the River project and all that. So there are certain examples that you can learn from Netherlands. And I feel that even the Sustainable Neighborhood program is again something like that. Now, the problems, if you ask me, what are the problems? One is technology. When you talk about urban resilience and its economy, what is the problems that a city government addresses? I would say for the first is technology. The second one is time frame. Because the resilience, if you have to build, you don't have the time to plan. In the midst of a planning, flooding comes. You have a fire taking place in your in the place where you deposit the waste. So everything comes very fast. So the time frame is important. The coordination between the different agencies, because the city sees so many umpteen number of agencies and SPVs working together. In Kochi, he was asking me, the KMRL is there, the Kochi Metro Rail Limited is there, managing the metros and the water metro. You have the smart city project running. It's another SPV, wherein the mayor is only a member of the board. You have the Kochi Municipal Corporation. You have the GCDA, which is the Greater Kochi Development Authority. You have another planning department from the government. You have another transport SPV there, which we started. I would boast that we were the first to do in India. So all these SPVs are there around you. Now, how you are going to coordinate these? Then the development paradigm that is happening, because you are having a capitalist path of development in which it's very easy to speak about planning. We should plan, we should be pragmatic, we should do that, we should be equitable, we should do this, we should be that. You should have Millennium Goals, you should have Sustainable Development Goals. It is very easy to preach, but you have the development coming like this. You are showing a particular phase in history where rich people are becoming more richer and the poor are becoming more poorer. People are moving to the slums. It is happening. You cannot stop it, because the kind of economy that is unveiling before you is actually unfolding these scenes before you. Now, how much you can intervene? What is the level of interface that you can have with the economic progress that is happening? To cut it short, how can Anil Kumar intervene in a society which Modi ji is running? So there is difference. There is difference in perception. There is difference in what things are unfolding. So I am telling that this is another challenge before you, because you have diverse kind of thinking. You have a particular method of the economy growing and all that. Now, another one is funds. Another problem I don't want to explain in detail. Everybody was telling about funds, the paucity of funds. Now, how much powers you have in the city local bodies. I am the I will tell you very happily that in Kerala, I am the executive head of the city. I don't have a commissioner. It is only the secretary. And I can simply take a disciplinary action even against the secretary. Understand? So I am the executive head. But even though I am the executive head, I feel that we need more powers. I don't feel that Kerala is everything. You should learn from other places also. So that problem is there. The vibrancy of the democracy. Have we lost the vibrancy of democracy? It's again a question. How are you? See, the additional chief secretary of Kerala itself is telling that you have a messy politics. Understand? And you have mimicking of the decentralized. You heard us saying, no, that each councillor is arguing for his or her wards. These things happen. Democracy has its own intricacies. So how you are going to manage it? The number of planners you have. She was also on that. How many planners you have? I believe that Gujarat is much better than Kerala. I am totally. I don't feel nervous to say that Gujarat is better than Kerala when you have. Are the Gujaratis here? But nobody is clapping, I think. Yeah. So I have been talking about Kerala and everybody is clapping, but no applause for when I support the Gujarati. When I support the state of Gujarat also. I understand that the number of planners in the municipal administration in Gujarat is also much more when compared to my state. So these are some of the challenges I want to tell. And now, how are we going to fight this? I told you about Rebuild Kerala, Heal, Sustainable Neighborhood, urban transportation. To have a public transport, strong public transport. You are having your metro. We had our metro even earlier. The water metro. I think you should also have a look at the Kochi water metro, which is the first of its kind. The planning, and I want to be aligned with CEPT for even having a local area plan for the places I have, because the Kochi Municipal Corporation should actually tie up with CEPT for having at least some of the students, not for mayor's fellows, not as mayor's fellows, but as working in tandem for having an LAP prepared for certain areas of Kochi Municipal Corporation. I am asking for applause and you are giving me. It's not happening naturally, maybe because of my problem. The third one is the laws, the legal interventions that is happening happily. I would say the Coastal Zone Regulation Act, which is there. It's actually helping urban resilience, I believe. Then again, you have the Wetland Conservation Act in Kerala. I don't know whether Gujarat has its own act. Might be the additional chief secretary can be telling about it. But we have the Wetland Conservation Act, which is again a method of having resilience into your planning. And then again, on funding, I would say Kerala should also think about municipal bonds, which is happening. so common, which is so common in Gujarat. We have a canal rejuvenation project. Yesterday, two of my student colleagues, both of us were in our student days because we were being assisted by two of our students. An ideal thing Mr. Anil Roy did. One was from Kerala and the other one was from Gujarat. So both of them were batting for their own states. So, and from that time, I knew that identity is something so perfectly poised. There is nothing wrong to tell anything about identity. The moment something is said good of Kerala, my good friend will become so excited. And the moment he criticizes Gujarat, the next second she will tell that, see, you see the beauty of Gujarat. You can't do anything beyond this. I am so happy that I am a Gujarati and I've been born here, and Ahmedabad is like this. Don't disturb Ahmedabad and all that. Leave it. So what I'm telling is that they were showing me the riverfront. You have been showcasing the riverfront like anything. Now, believe me, if we are starting to showcase the sea, we are showcasing the Fort Kochi heritage zones, we are showcasing the inland waterways, we are showcasing, because that's why even Mr. Vajpayee, our respected former Prime Minister, was in Kumaragam. It's all beautiful places. But if our canals we are showcasing, now the canals is full of rubbish. But suppose we have a project called the Canal Rejuvenation Project, I bet you that everybody from CEPT University will come back to Kochi, will ask me for more flights from Ahmedabad to Kochi, so that you can travel in small boats like what you see in the West. Like maybe you will find pride telling that it's to which city should I compare in the West? No, I'm leaving that. Let him make a final call. So we have the Canal Rejuvenation Project. If that Canal Rejuvenation Project works well, if the entire sewage is well lit, if there are public spaces and roads by your canals, and if you have the inland navigation happening, I believe, and it's fully desilted, I believe that I would have been placed sitting here very coolly in the midst, even by the side of Deepti, and be very confident that however rain happens in Kochi, all the canals will take all the water away. So that is also something that it's a good urban resilience method, and it's a good employment generation method. We have started the command control system is everywhere. In all the smart cities, you have the command control system. But what I am trying to do in the command control system in Kochi is that to bring everyone together. I did that. I did an experiment to bring the district collector, the police commissioner, the irrigation department, the PWD, and the municipal corporation, the GCDA, the police, and everyone together, so that we all will sit in the command control system. When it rains in some particular place, we can understand in which place the flooding is happening, and to which place the fire department should be sent with their powerful motors and all that. So I feel that technology is something very important. Our previous speaker was also on technology. I don't know how much time I have taken. You have been very generous. So the best thing I'll do is that not to look at your face. The next one is, so data. Next is data is something that is so important, because data is the most precious thing. So we have the GIS mapping and everything happening in our command control system. So with all data, we have a Tosca tool, which we are trying to develop with the help of the German development agency, GIS. We are trying to have a Tosca tool, which we are going to do both for urban resilience and everything. I think that is going to be an important initiative. The e-governance, the strength of Kerala in its people's plan. She was telling that you should never have a top-down approach. You should have consultative planning. And I think Kerala is the best. Even though we are at the best, we have to improve in the people's plan program, whatever is happening. The master plan we are preparing now, we are preparing it to the utmost democratic exercise that we are having. So we are now trying to bring a people's plan project. We have a marine drive scheme. I was there in the Ahmedabad Urban Authority in the afternoon. They were showing me how the local, the transit-oriented development, all that they were showing how Gujarat is performing well using the town planning schemes and all that. We have the metro corridor. We have a marine drive, not as big as Mumbai. I'm very happy that I'm very small. I'm not just like Mumbai, because if I would have been Mumbai, I can't believe what kind of resilience I can intervene. If since it is Kochi, I can at least intervene to a certain extent. We need only small cities, I believe. So the Marine Drive scheme, we are trying to extend it outside using the same technique, using the same methodology. So I believe that that is also an economic activity, an economic resurgence that can be done with the help of the, what do you say, the urban resilience program to see that it is climate combative. It can take care of the changes in the climate that is happening around it can imbibe whatever things happened everywhere, specifically from Gujarat. I'm very purposefully supporting Gujarat at least within 10 minutes, because when I told the name of Modi ji, I was looking at Deepthi. I didn't understand how she was looking at me because she wants to get back to Kochi. So what I feel is that, see, the good things that we can learn from the Gujarat experience, I believe that at least to a certain extent can be translated to whatever scheme we are trying to do in Marine Drive. We are also trying to place certain sensors, flood warnings signals, which can give flood warning signals. We have a sister city relation with Messini. It's again a city in Europe, which has the more or less the same topography, with the mountains on one side, the sea on the other side. There is always this volcano. They also have this volcanic eruptions also, and they have the rain. They have all these problems. They have sensors placed. So now with EU, with the collaboration of EU, we are going to place these things in Kochi also to a certain extent with the funding of the European Union. Again, we are trying to become a city of design. We are also trying to be an age-friendly city. They were on age, no? I'm trying to become the first city in the whole of South Asia, which will be recognized by the UN as the first age-friendly city in South Asia. I had my initial discussions, and I was part of the political forum, which I was allowed to speak, because we are trying to become an age-friendly city. And Kerala is very fast growing to be aging, because most of our population is urban, and it is also becoming aging. That is also a problem, because all our students are in Gujarat, all our students are in Europe, everyone is working in US, and only the people from other states are coming to us for doing the, what do you say, the ordinary kind of work that we have. But I'll tell you one thing with pride. You are talking about inclusiveness. You might have seen photographs and videographs of the migrant laborers. Haven't you seen? The migrant laborers walking all the way, what do you say, traveling on the top of the trains and on the buses. But I'll tell you with pride that in Kerala, we spoke about the migrant laborers, not as migrant laborers. We called them Aditi Tolilali in Malayalam, which means guest workers. Understand? So, so we were trying to take care of these guest workers to a certain extent. See, these things happen not because of a particular individual. When I am in Kerala, I will surely say that it's because of Comrade Pinarayi Vijayan that it is happening. To a certain extent, I would say that it is also there. And immediately Deepthi will come and tell that, no, it is because of him that things are not happening. But I believe that it is not individuals that matter. You have a kind of historical tradition that you enjoy. So even if Mr. Koshi sits in Gujarat, I believe that he will have a line of thinking. See him smiling. He will have a line of thinking that has his lineage from his, what do you say, from his historical time. He will have this. That's why Mr. Kurian started the dairy movement here, from the cooperative movement here, because cooperative movement is something very strong. And so I will cut short. The City of Design, we are collaborating with the National Institute of Design. I told you about the CEPT, that we should have a local area plan with CEPT. And finally, I'm wrapping up my presentation. I would say that Kerala and India needn't, I don't know whether I am heard by somebody sitting in US and UK. Let them hear, but I want them to hear also. I am very confident that we needn't have to learn anything from the lectures that is being done by the UN to tell us that you should have a sustainable development goal. because we have been practicing the sustainable development goals. It is only because of the development that is happening that the West is enjoying more. They have been living their lives like anything. They have been running short of the fossil fuels. They have eaten up the entire carbon space in the whole universe. And suddenly they're coming back and telling us that you should go green. So don't teach us how to be green, because we are the only green continent inside, green nation inside the world. This is my opinion. And even in Kerala, we have this practice. And I will end, because I want to take Deepthi along with me. I will end with the magnanimity that our first Prime Minister, Pandit Nehru, had. Anil Roy might be remembering that when Kabusir was asked to prepare a master plan for Chandigarh, our Prime Minister told Mr. Kabusir, don't bring out a plan for a dying city. I want a living city before me. This was the words of Pandit Nehru to Kabusir. When O.P. Mathur, in his young days, with Luthians, took the master plan before Pandit Nehru, he told that it is so beautiful. It is as beautiful as a garden. But I don't see flowers inside this garden, because I can't see people inside this plan. Where are the people? Where are my brothers and sisters in this plan? So you are planners, and we represent the people. So there should be some area of coincidence between us. And I believe that this coincidence is going to come from this urban resilience plan that we are going to make. So let the academic community, let the students before me, let the vigorness of the students before me, and let the compassion, the integration, the inclusion, and the experience that we both, not only we both, many of the politicians cutting across political parties in India have. Let all of us sit together, imbibe these spirits, work together to make resilient cities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for making this session very interactive. And we will take this learning ahead in our professional journey. And I'm sure that we will look for the references that you have mentioned. Let me introduce Srimati Deepthi Mary Varghese, present with us today to share her reflections on KUD. Srimati Varghese is a politician and a lawyer by training. She is a former National Secretary of Indian Youth Congress and the Central Government Council at CAT. She is also an advocate at the Supreme Court of India and the High Court of Kerala. She is a council member of Kochi Municipal Corporation. She is also a member of Finance Standing Committee of Kochi Municipal Corporation. She is currently the General Secretary of Kerala Pradesh Congress. She holds a bachelor degree in law from Bangalore University and also a bachelor degree in political science and government from Maharaja College, Ernakulam. May I now request ma'am to address our audience?
All the respected dignitaries and my dear brothers and sisters. Actually, I am here just because of our respectful Mayor, Sri M. Anil Kumar. Because actually, this is a program designed, planned for Kochi Mayor. But what he said, what he finished in his speech is about Nehru. He's a person following Nehru, he's a follower of Nehru sometimes. That's why he managed to bring me also in this program. You know what Nehru's approach to the opposition? I think nowadays, most of our youngsters are not much aware of politics and they're not interested also, much interested. But in our period, in our college days, even Anil and myself, we fought in our campus. Like you may be knowing SFI and Kerala Students Union. I don't know whether any of you here sitting are worked in any student organization. Is there anyone? No, I think. See, only him. So I'm not speaking about much politics, but Jawaharlal Nehru is a person, when A.K. Gopalan, the opposition leader, he's a CPM leader, he was the opposition leader. When he starts speaking in the parliament, Jawaharlal Nehru used to come inside and sit inside and hear what he was telling. So what I'm telling is, our mayor is such a person, he always used to hear the opposition side also. That's why I'm here. And thank you so much for all the persons of CEPT University and respectful mayor for accommodating me in this program. I'm so happy to be here and seeing you. Actually, I was thinking, what should I tell to you? Actually, I was not a speaker in this program. Yesterday night, Mr. Anil told, you also need to speak for 10 minutes. The challenges we are facing, Kochi, what we are facing, about all sort of things, he has explained in a very good manner, in a wide manner. And I'm happy to say that I am coming from the Queen of Arabian Sea. Actually, it's such a beautiful place, Cochin. You may be knowing, many of you have come to Cochin and visited Cochin, and you have seen the backwater beauty, everything you have seen. But there are many challenges we are facing, because I think we have a big history, we have a big culture. Our country has a big culture and history about our urbanization cities. You may be knowing more than me about that. We very proudly talk about Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. It's all planned cities, I think. That's what I read. But nowadays, what's happening? We have seen the gift city today. So it's about to plan. So before the city comes, everything is planned. And after that, the urbanization or that urban city is coming up. So what is happening in all the cities in our country is, what I understood is, what Anil Kumar said is right. I am seeing from the layman's side, or from as a social worker, I'm telling all these things. You may be having a lot of other things to against this. You can say so many things. So what is happening is, most of our cities in our country are not planned. People are coming, people are settling, and after that, we are thinking about what to do about the drainage, what to do about the slums, and what to do about the other thing, economic side of things, and rest of all such things. Services, important services, all such things we are thinking after that. That's why we are not having planned cities. And Kochi is also like that. It's not a planned city. That's why very rightly he said about the floods. When rain comes, he was over phone yesterday and today. He was asking, how was the rain? How much it is? It's continuously raining or not? Like that he was asking. Because when rain is coming, then we have to be conscious. We don't know what is going to happen, why it is happening. There is no proper drainage system in the city. So that planning, what we need to do, that's a big challenge we are facing. And about the slums and all, about the housing thing, about the urban transport, all sort of things he had already told. I'm not going to that. And very important thing I used to say in the council also, what we are facing, especially the women in our country, or in our city, in my city, I will say, this lack of public toilets. When people are coming, when tourists are coming, when we are moving from one place to another, there's no public toilets. When I'm telling about this, I don't know how much you are aware about the importance of that. Because women nowadays, we are all professionals. We are moving from one side to another. We are traveling. And that time, there are feeding. We are mothers, they are traveling. In public transport, they are traveling. At that time, this is a very important thing. There are no public toilets. I don't know about Gujarat, how it is. There are public toilets or not. The central government have a lot of projects, and they are initiating a lot of things. That's what we heard. But I think in Kerala, in our state, it is not there. And it's one of the important thing we need to address, I think. And when floods are coming, what we need to do, I'm sorry. What we need to do, he spoke about how we managed the 2018 flood and about that movie and all. We got Oscar award for that movie. Why? 2018 movie? It's that much important, how we manage the flood. How we manage the flood is the fisherman community. There is no technical know-how, or we don't know scientifically how to face a flood. It was really a shock for the Kerala's, for the Malayalis. We don't know how to face a flood. In Assam and all, they used to have, in Meghalaya or some other states, they're usually having these floods. They know what to do and all, to some extent. There also we need. But in Kerala, this is the first time, 2018, this flood is coming and we don't know what to do. And because of the support, because of the togetherness, we overcome that. And after that also, I will say, and I'm not, I have a little difference of opinion what Mr. Anil Kumar said. Rebuild Kerala, or after flood, what happened? And whether they are rehabilitated properly. They lost everything. Everything in the sense they don't have anything. They lost their housing. They lost, they don't have the students who are studying, small kids and all. They lost their books. They can't study, everything lost. So that people, whether they have rehabilitated, how they can be rehabilitated. To some extent, government has done so many things, there's no doubt. But they can't rehabilitate the people who face that flood issues and all. It is still there. So these things to be managed. We have to tell the reality. No, we have to, how we need to manage when floods are coming, what to do. These all things we need to address, I think. And the main thing, one of the main thing we are facing is, I don't know whether if I'm telling that it seems to be much important for you. See, the mosquito in Kochi, it's a very badly it is affecting. It's in all, or I don't know in this area how it is affecting. And dengue fever, there are many who are dying because of dengue fever, and we can't eradicate. And once there was a show, and I'm telling, Mayor is taking very good steps. They are bringing very important people to discuss about all such of things. And how to eradicate this mosquito is scientifically, once there was a show, there was a video show, you may be remembering that. How to eradicate is a fogging. Now we are doing fogging in our city. Fogging, how we are doing is, it's going, a vehicle is going, fogging, and it's going from one side to another like that. Actually, what we need to do is, from 4 sides, 4 vehicle has to come and fog, and we have to kill these mosquitoes. That's a scientific way of eradicating mosquitoes. But it's not happening. It's need to be happen. So such things, many things we need to do. And as you all know, I'm not going to the academic side of things. There are many things, resilient cities, what to do and all like that sort of things. I'm not going into that. Sustainable development, well-being and inclusive growth. And there are areas, economy, society, and our ecosystem, all sort of things you may be knowing. You are all studying and you may be knowing all sort of things. I'm not going into that. And such systems should come in all cities, especially a city like Kochi. That's what we need to do. And for that, we are giving our, I'm saying that it's a very important thing what Sharada Muralidharan told, and Anil was repeating that. The politics in Kerala, it's not like any other states. We are all, this organization means it's so important. We are all political. I was about to say India, whether we can say India or Bharat, we don't know that. India is a country of unity in diversity, we used to say. There are a lot of diversities. That's why I was telling about Gujarati, about Malayali, about Tamilian, about Punjabi, and there are difference of different type of culture, different type of living settlements. We can't compare Gujarat. We can't compare Ahmedabad with Cochin. That's what my opinion is. We can't develop a city in Gujarat like Cochin. Cochin is different thing. we have to find out what is the importance of Kochi, what we can do there, what is the geographical system there. Everything we need to search such things. But how we can compare Gujarat with Assam, a city in Assam, or some cities in Northeast? So planning, there is diversity. That is India. So that diversity is there. With that diversity, how we can plan the Indian cities? I think you may be knowing, you are studying, you are students. I am also a student like you in this matter, in this topic. I am also a student along with you. And I would like to hear from your side in India, in Indian cities, how we are going to develop, how we are going to plan and plan the cities. You are the future. You are the future planners. And this is a old university having 50 years. I think 50 years is completed now. So the School of Planning, CEPT University, I'm wishing all you, all the youngsters, all the brothers and sisters who are sitting here to plan the Indian cities in this diversity with a unity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking out the time to come here and address the audience and sharing your valuable insights. Now I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Joy Element, Director General, Kerala Institute of Local Administration. Dr. Element has a medical degree and a master's in public health. His expertise encompasses decentralization, local governance, participatory planning, climate change, capacity building, institution development, and knowledge management. He has held significant roles in various organizations, including serving as a Chief Program Coordinator of SDC CAPDEC program at a Swiss agency and development and cooperation, and moderating the decentralization community of UN Solution Exchange of UN country team in India. He has also been a CEO of Intercooperation, Social Development India, and a senior advisor for local governance at Helvetic Swiss Intercooperation. Furthermore, he has contributed to important initiatives such as the South Asia Climate Proofing and Growth Development, Climate Change Innovation Program as a technical advisor. His commitment to governance is exemplified by his service on committees established by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj India and the Government of Kerala. Additionally, he was recognized with Outstanding Community Builder awarded by UNDP India in 2007. Dr. Element's extensive contribution include his role as a former Vice President of Kerala, Shastra Sahitya Parishad, State Governor of Janaswasthiya Abhiyan, Kerala, and President of Kerala Shastra Parishad, Delhi Forum. He has also been a member of Syndicate, Senate, Academic Council of University of Kerala. So now we kindly request you to take over.
Thank you. Good evening to all. First of all, I need to place on record our thanks to CEPT University for being with us for this Urban Dialogue series. I will just quickly narrate a few things, few points I would say. And basically, in this context, the topic which we are discussing, we are actually discussing about the resilient urban economies, cities as drivers of growth and recovery. The first point is cities as drivers of growth and recovery, not just for cities, but beyond that for the rural areas, the peripheral areas, so that actually cities become the drivers of growth and recovery for the entire area's country. That's the first point. So we should not actually think just about what would happen to the city dwellers, but also because city becomes the hub of activities for future urban economies. The second one is, when we talk about cities, I prefer to call it urban areas because nothing is homogeneous. Our urban areas are not homogeneous. The city itself is not homogeneous. It has different areas which are all unique in itself. But even in a state, cities are not, because for example, we have 6 cities. Each one is different from the other and their problems are different. So we need to address that. plus the urban areas where we have across the country, we have the smaller towns, the little more largest towns, and the cities and the metropolitan areas. So each need to be addressed differently. That is what I wanted to say. Third is that we always talk about the 73rd and 74th Amendment, whereas I feel that 73rd Amendment has led to the talk of Panchayati Raj, which is basically about rural governance. Whereas we have the 74th Amendment, I still feel that it has not been considered. It has not been considered in
Excuse me, sir, you are not audible.
You had actually muted me. So, the point which I am mentioning, it's okay. Is it audible now? Is it audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I was trying to say was that we have not actually thought about urban governance, but only about urban development. And so, even though the 74th Amendment is there, we have not actually touched the 74th Amendment, but also I feel it is not strong enough to actually make cities, urban areas more stronger. The fourth point which I wanted to highlight is about the SDGs. Especially people who have gathered here are more of this urban planners and those who are looking towards urban development and governance. So we jump into the conclusion that out of the 17 goals, SDGs, SDG 11 is the one which is meant for us. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. But let us not be so reductionist in that approach. Every SDG is applicable to cities or urban areas. Whether it is the SDG 1 is talking about the poverty, hunger, education, health, water and sanitation, gender, climate change, whatever you talk, all the 17 goals are applicable to cities and urban areas. And so let us not confine to talking about and working on SDG 11. We need to actually come together, take all of them together. In such a situation, my fifth point would be, instead of talking about goals 1, 2, 3, which would be always a little bit of alien to many people, we can actually talk about the themes. It's about poverty, it is about hunger, it is about education. We can actually take these things into themes and then we can work on it so that it is not another program which is coming. It is part of our day-to-day life, and where building resilience is of all these goals. That is my point. The sixth one is actually about our own People's Plan campaign. Our Honorable Mayor had already mentioned that we started it 27 years back and still continuing with all its limitations and success stories. It's about participatory local planning and budgeting. This is one opportunity, potential, which we always have, actually planning at the local level and budgeting at the local level, which actually can make things better and also consider various local issues there. And this is where Sharda Madam actually mentioned about the Kudumbashree, the neighborhood group federations of women at every level in Kerala. And they are contributing in such a large way to local economic development and also governance also. And especially post floods of the 2018 and also during and after the COVID era, the Kudumbashree movement actually could really champion for this recovery as well for the further growth, that's one. And in such a context in Kerala, we also had the 8th point is about the local disaster management plan. and the local action plan on climate change. The methodologies we have developed at KILA, and it is being already around 2,666, of which around 18 municipalities have prepared the local action plan on climate change, and the other Gram Panchayats have done it. And we also have developed a tool called the Disaster and Climate Action Tracking Tool. So how we are actually moving towards it. But the point is that it is not just about climate change, addressing climate change, mitigation, adaptation as in the usual terminology, but it is not only about this disaster management in the usual approach, but we need to consider this disaster management plan as well as the local action plan on climate change, including growth and recovery in sight. It is not just about climate change. Every aspect of this needs to be considered, and that is the thing. And in that case, we have at the national level for the rural areas, we have the National Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Whereas in Kerala, we also have the Ayyankali Urban Employment Guarantee Scheme, which has actually contributed a lot, especially post-floods and post-COVID. So that's how this changes happen. And that becomes the inclusive aspect of our overall approach to development. And in that context, it is also about working on land and water, where we have also tried to have this nature-based solution or the ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction initiatives using urban employment guarantee scheme, which is actually contributing to some of these growth and recovery issues. We have also heard about the extreme poverty, addressing the extreme poverty, where on November 1st, we will be declaring, our CM will be declaring Kerala as 100% free from extreme poverty. We had a massive participatory identification of extremely poor, and we came up with around 64,006 people as extremely poor, and we will be achieving that great target of getting all of them out of that extreme poverty. But we need to go further because it is a continuous process, but that becomes very important. And we also are in a major campaign, major effort on waste management, which also by now March 2024, we would also be ready. All the local governments will be ready with this achievement of integrated waste management system in all the places, and that's how we move. But then we have also developed this methodology for the risk-informed master plans guidelines, and that will actually be, once it is rolled out, that will actually we hope that it will actually take care of this basic issues of growth and recovery, as well as the mitigation part of it. So I think when we actually discuss about cities as drivers of growth and recovery, especially in the context of resilient economies, I always prefer to say that cities cannot exist by themselves. The municipalities cannot exist by themselves. We need to actually work together. Both the rural and urban has to come to, because there is nothing like a separate identity, especially in Kerala. We earlier used to call it Rurban, where we considered that most of our areas are rural, even the urban areas are rural. But now what we say is that most of our areas are becoming urban, even the rural areas are becoming urban kind of thing. So everywhere this approach has to be there, and it is also interconnected. So that is how we move forward. So thank you once again, CEPT, and the people who have gathered, the experts who have gathered here. On behalf of Kerala Institute of Local Administration, we are much thankful to all of you, especially, and I don't go by one, and especially all of you who are gathered here, especially our mayor and the standing committee chairperson, of course, the faculty members of the CEPT and all other speakers here. We are actually taking this forward because we also need to actually come up with discourses and dialogues on urban development and urban governance. That is why we are having this urban dialogue series. We will be having around 30 of them with all these institutions like the CEPT, academic institutions, coming up with the elected representatives and the officials. so that we actually take this urban dialogue forward, so that there is stronger urban governance, and which actually would actually be supporting the cities as drivers of growth and recovery. Thank you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing your views on this dialogue series. Ladies and gentlemen, please now join me in welcoming our distinguished moderator for this event, retired IAS, Mr. C.K. Koshi. Koshi, sir, brings a wealth of experience from his distinguished career in the Indian Administrative Service, where he held key positions in both Government of Gujarat and Government of India. Since his retirement, he has been actively involved in teaching governance and public policy, advising on urban research projects, and contributing to various organizations, including serving as a trustee of Alliance Francaise Ahmedabad and a Grassroots Innovation Augmentation Network. We are honored to have him as a moderator and for today's discussion. You can take over.
The first citizen of Kochi, the worshipful mayor, leader of the opposition, this is Deepthi Varghese. A big shout out to the virtual presence of our overseas distinguished participants and my friends and colleagues, former colleagues from CEPT University. As always, CEPT has given me an impossible task. We are already running behind time, and we have 5 speakers, and Professor Anil Roy expects me to ensure a lively discussion in 10 minutes. It is, in fact, quite impossible, but government servants are used to being thrown impossible tasks, and they react in a common way. And what is that? They pass the buck. And that is precisely what I am going to do in the short time. And it's been a long day for many of you. So let me quickly try to bring in as many speakers as possible, because my task is not to speak, but to get a discussion rolling. Do we have the overseas speakers online? Do we have? Okay, very good. You have Dr. Lakshmi, but nobody else. Okay, we have Joy Elamon and Dr. Lakshmi. So let me quickly pose a few questions, because we do hope to spend a little time, whatever is remaining, to take questions from the audience. So let me quickly summarize by first thanking Joy Elamon by bringing us back and focusing on what is the theme today. There is a convergence of 2 events. First is, in fact, today's event, which is titled Planning for Resilient Urban Economies, Navigating Opportunities and Challenges. And World Habitat Day puts its theme as Resilient Urban Economies, Cities as Drivers of Growth and Recovery. Now, it doesn't take much intelligence to say that the commonality in both these themes are urban economies, resilience of urban economies. So as planners, we all know that there are 2 or 3 pillars that support this particular theme. The first is, of course, that climate change-driven natural disasters are increasing in a very dramatic format. I have statistics here, but I won't go through that. But it's a 3-fold, 4-fold increase over the last decade in the number of climate-driven natural disasters that are taking place, number 1. Number 2, simultaneously, urbanization is gathering momentum. And not only are we going to reach 70% population in urban centers, but mind you, out of that 70%, the great chunk is going to be in what is euphemistically called the global south. It's the global south that is being urbanized at a remarkable pace. Third pillar is the fact that cities are engines of growth. And therefore, it's a theorem that I'm trying to propound. If you have a natural calamity hitting a city,
it is hitting you, it's hitting the nation where it hurts most. Economy, engines of growth, large population in urban cities, and the fact that the number of calamities is exponentially increasing. So with that as a background, what I would like to do to get a little bit of discussion started, let me pose one or two questions very quickly and ask our speakers to comment. And of course, if they want to comment on any of the earlier speakers, they are most welcome to do. And my questions are as follows. I'm quoting from the Sendai framework for risk reduction. How does a government integrate disaster risk management and climate change adaptation into development strategies and investment programs? And I think the best example that we have internationally, and I'm sticking my neck out and claiming this, that perhaps the best example of governments trying to integrate strategies for economic development into risk reduction strategies is the case of Kerala. Is one dramatic example of a intervention by the state government in trying to formulate policies which have disaster risk management as part of overall economic strategy. The second question is, since disaster risk management is an interdisciplinary science, it's an interdisciplinary approach, where are the experts? Where are the planners? We just don't have them. I remember having a conversation with some experts, and it was realized then that you have to bring to the table multiple disciplines to even look at risk management. It is transportation, it's health, it is infrastructure, it is water, it is public health issues. So where are these planners, and how will you bring them to the table to start even applying their minds to strategies for reduction management? And thirdly, whenever disaster strikes in an urban center, in cities, the people who suffer most are the most vulnerable, the poorest of the poor. What can we do as planners and from government to immediately, now this is not a long-term strategy, we need to be prepared for the next disaster to strike. What can we do now to somehow insulate the poorest of the poor from getting the worst, being hit the hardest? So I'll just leave these three questions, and may I give a shout out to Dr. Lakshmi in San Jose. If she would like to set the ball rolling by quickly, I have 3 minutes because we have 15 minutes of the session. So in 3 minutes, try to just touch upon these three questions. Dr. Lakshmi, can we have you online?
Hello, sir. Nice to hear from you, see you. I think you pose very difficult questions. But I mean, from an education space, I think that what I can say is that we need to move away from sort of having, being a specialist in one small area of expertise, and actually have that in conjunction with the ability to communicate with other specialists, right? So you talked a lot about how you need a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach to solve these problems. And from the education space, I can say that that's something that we have to do from the ground up. Now, my colleagues at CEPT and here in San Jose, we will tell you we are doing that already, right? We do multidisciplinary studios, we do integrated teaching, but I think we need to do more of that. So let me just kick that out to the audience and then see how we can continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. May I ask Dr. Joy Ellerman, since he dwelt extensively on developing strategies for resilient urban centers, would you like to comment on some aspects of these three questions?
Basically, what I was trying, I mean, because that actually I am not an urban expert as such, but I thought actually I will bring in some of these points to get discussed. But the main point which I still want to talk about is that, see, resilience is about so many things, and we are all facing, whether it is climate change, whether it is economic issues, all those things, we still have to face this, and only if there is a comprehensive approach. It cannot be a scheme approach or a project approach or anything. So that is where the master plans become important, and where master plans are not just about maps and drawings and other things, but it is also about considering the socio-economic and cultural aspects of it. And finally, it is also about risk-informed master plans, which covers everything. So we need to actually have a new approach to developing master plans. And that is the point which I wanted to make. So I was not pointing at any single thing, but I wanted to say is that we cannot approach everything in a reductionist way where if you do this, you will achieve this kind of thing. But we have to consider every aspect of life. I mean, that is how we need to. And there, the master plans, as urban areas have, they can actually be used as the tools for future planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to pose a very specific question to the worshipful mayor. We have heard so much about the Kerala Rebuild Kerala initiative, the Rebuild Kerala program. And at least from what we have heard on paper, it appears to be an amazing initiative because you are trying to learn from lessons from the disaster and how do you insulate yourself from future disasters. And I believe that there is thinking now seriously in the government of Kerala that urban laws will also have to be reformulated to take into consideration some aspects of planning to see how much you can mitigate future shocks. As far as Kochi is concerned, how has this Rebuild Kerala affected you or your planning and your approach to planning?
So when you are answering questions, I believe that it is better to be straight, better to be short, better to be sincere, so that you will get the best marks. So even though it is not so informative. So my and conclusive answers. So see, my reactions, I'll tell you. One, to have a resilient approach in planning, I would say straightly that the capitalist development has to put brakes on it. At least the primitive, you call it primitive accumulation of capital. I don't want to explain about this stuff because I know that you are understanding what I'm trying to converse. The point is that the predatory approach of capitalism should be stopped. You are asking me what Kerala is going to do, but I am answering that Kerala is part of India and India is part of the whole globe. So supposing you have to fight climate change, supposing you have to put brakes on the way nature is going to hit you back, the only answer is that be very careful. It is not that you shouldn't have development. That is what I was explaining initially. So put your brakes on your development, not on development per se, but to know that nature is also there with you. The second question which you posed was, I'll come to the question that you posed to me direct. The second question that you were posing is that, how are you going to, who are the people who do it? See, my answer is from the level of a politician. I have heard a story, I don't know whether it is true. When the Moscow metro was being built, Joseph Stalin told the technocrats, the engineers before him, that I want to have a Moscow which will never have a traffic block after 50 years. So they asked him back, what should we do? He told that I don't have answers. That is for what I have kept you. I also only have vision before me. So this is my vision. This is the vision of the people. Do it. So this is how E. Sridharan built the metro. So this is the way the people who are sitting before me, you should give the answers. So this is my point on that. And the third one on what specific, I heard you after Deepthi speaking, you were very, very cautioned to say that the Rebuild Kerala initiative is good, at least in papers. So everything
That's
is like
what
that.
you-
No, I'm not. It's true like that. It's like that itself. So to have something on your papers and to implement, I know that as a very experienced bureaucrat, you know the difficulties involved. But anyway, you have something on the paper before you. How much you have you have been successful in Kochi? I would say that we have not been successful like that, but we are trying our best. We are at least having our plans and our strategies before us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is a real answer from the ground reality. I'll just like to ask Ms. Deepthi Varghese that if a disaster were to strike Kochi, what is your thinking and what is your approach to protecting the poorest of the poor people? How have you thought about it, and how did you face it in the past?
Disaster in the sense, in any type of disaster, no? Any type of disaster. Actually, when I talked, I missed one important thing to say. It's related to your question. That is, when COVID affected everywhere, not only in Kerala, not only in India, all throughout the world. But after COVID, what was the step taken by the government? I used to hear in US, they pump lot of money into the market.
Yeah.
Money should be in the hands of people. People should get money. I will say the employment scheme, rural employment scheme, the urban employment scheme. It's what is happening. The money is directly giving to the people. People should have money in their hands. Then only
Demand
it should
is
go into
created.
the market. No. So when a disaster is coming, the first thing the government has to do is to take step to pump money into the market to the people. That step was not happening in our country or in states, irrespective of all political things I am telling. Not I am telling about any political party. That didn't happen. That's what I understood. When disaster is happening, what people can do, what a local government can do, local body, what they can do. We have to get money from the state government or central government. We don't have any, we have only very little on fund. The Kochi Corporation, I can say, outwardly, I can say it's a very rich corporation and all. But money-wise, economic-wise, I don't think we have much on fund in our hands. We can do so many things. So what I'm telling is, when a disaster is happening, there should be a, you're talking about disaster management also. What disaster management is doing, what pre-planning we are doing, all such things we have to do. That is not happening from the side properly. No, I'm not telling not happening, properly not happening from the side of the government. So that planning we need to do.
Thank you. Yes, please.
See, the first thing you will have to do is to look to these people who are vulnerable. Supposing a disaster happens, you should always look to the colonies, what is happening there. You should look to the urban poor, what is the plight in which they are. Instill confidence in them. Tell them that you are also part of our society. Tell them that we are here because of you. So if you give out that message, I'm sure that you can build resilient cities.
Thank you very much. I think in the limited time, I'd like to throw it open for questions from the audience. So if you have a question, I think there'll be mics going around. We'll send a mic down to anybody who wants. And it would be helpful if you could specifically ask a question. And if you want it to be answered by one of the speakers present, either online or present here, we can request that specific speaker to answer the question. Anybody? Yes, there's one question here.
Am I audible?
Just press the button at the bottom. Yeah.
I'm audible now?
Yes.
So, as a fellow resident from the city of
Little louder. I think there's some volume issue.
Sir, I'm a resident of Kochi, and I have a question to the fellow representatives from my city.
If you are a resident of Kochi, you should be louder.
So, as the solid waste management challenge that is currently going on, I see there's a lot of IEC campaigns and a lot of citizen participation that is happening. But in a long term, say in terms of 10 years from now, what is the biggest challenge would you say as a representative, knowing the city, that city is possessing into tackling such a problem?
The biggest challenge I feel with all your IAC campaign, which you were mentioning, I believe it is the per se mentality of, if you are asking me, my city, I would say that it is the mentality of the people. Because Kochi is squeezed between, I can see him laughing from Trivandrum. Kochi is squeezed between a cosmopolitan culture where there is so much from the West and a consumerist viewpoint that is coming, which sometimes get disconnected with the masses. And on the other side, you have the general Kerala population that is very sensitive, ecologically sensitive, very sensitive to these problems. So I would say that once you can convince your people, then funds are going to come, technology is going to come, and you needn't have 10 years. Within, as he was telling, in the next 2024 March itself, you can ideally think of a city where you can tell this audience that we have solved this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? So if there is no question, I will wind up these discussions. Thank CEPT, the team led by Professor Anil, and the entire Faculty of Planning for organizing this dialogue. Grateful thanks to KILA, who are partners in this venture. And we hope that the next few days will be one of excitement with Prameya on the cards. So thank you very much for helping me to do this very quick and impossible task of moderating within 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. As we concluding a QA session moving ahead, I would like to mention that our students have come up with the annual magazine named Nagri. They have written and made illustrations on the theme of Prameya, resilient urban economies. The memento is also designed accordingly, and it is a handmade with a MDF board, and it's a dual use as a phone stand also. We have a team who has dedicatedly worked on mementos and the magazine. I would like to invite Manthan to felicitate Deepti Varghese, madam. And Amu Pradeep Kumar to felicitate Mayor, sir. And Vatsala for CK Koshi, sir. And also we have missed to memento the online participants and the speakers. So as we conclude this event, it is my honor to invite Dr. Anil Roy, sir, a senior associate professor in Faculty of Planning, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have just 1 or 2 minutes to go to waiting students. They are waiting for your presence there also. So let me state away, I'm not doing summary. Sir has already done that. And, you know, there are lots of takeaways from today's discussion, from planning practice to, you know, literally local area development, and Kochi becoming example city for resilience of economy, growth and rebuilding, and all sorts of things. So that's how the summary is, and we have to take it to the classroom, you have to take it to the practice, you have to take it to theory. So thank you so much for everyone. Let me formally give a vote of thanks to our honorable speakers from overseas. Ms. Victoria Hill, quickly responding to one call 1 month before, and she was ready for the dates, and she said, okay, she will come. So thank you, Victoria. She's not online to give us the keynote address. Also, Lakshmi, we have been in touch with her for many occasions. Lakshmi, thank you for staying online for 2 hours. I know it's still early morning in California. So thank you so much for giving us the idea and the sharing of your teaching practices, and also how theory and practice can converge and become more proactive in future. So thank you so much for being online. Thank you so much. Then we had speaker Sarda Muralidharan ma'am. We have heard that she's not well, but still making it today and giving us her idea of resilience and democracy and planning and practice, everything. So there are agreement, disagreement, but nonetheless, I'm grateful for her to join at this particular occasion to you know, illuminate us about the Kerala initiatives. Now, the honorable mayor here, he's been like quite open to all these knowledge and things, and especially from the academic institution, and then gracefully he accepted our invitation. And in fact, the support comes from KILA, and so therefore it's kind of you know, honoring him here on this occasion and having his presence to all of us. So inspiring message that you have given us, that yes, practice is more important, open to idea, open to innovations, technology. So we'll take it further to the classroom with the students. So thank you so much for coming here and gracing these occasions. With him, we have the leader of opposition, Madam Deepthi M. Burgess. She was also, I'm so sorry, we could not put her picture on the poster. I'm so sorry for that, ma'am. But yes, you've already part of this Kerala Urban Dialogue initiatives, and this is how the democracy is all about. You know, you have leader of opposition and the ruling party coming together, sharing on the dais and making the message, even if it is little, you know, agreement, disagreement together. And that's how the nature of democracy, that is how we should be learning all about this. Joy Element, sir, still if he's online, lots of encouragement between these two institutions because of you, sir. And that's how we have MOU to go further for 5 more years. And we'll continue to do work together between Gujarat and Kerala. That friendship will remain active through our collaborations. Last but not least, our Kosi sir is my mentor, friend, philosopher, and guide. He's always ready to help CEPT University in crucial time. And today was also his test to be given only 15 minutes to have a deliberation. So thank you very much, sir, for coming to CEPT more frequently and also helping us in many occasions. So that's the here, and I must thank my dean, Professor Mona Iyer. She's been the force behind for any activity that happens, any initiative that we took individually, collectively. So she's always there, making sure that everything goes well. So thank you, Mona, for being a force behind it. Gargi, my dear colleague, she's also PhD scholar here. She's been taking charge. She's also coordinator here. Nitika is coordinating Premia. So I chipped in and I told Nitika that let's join together these two events, not doing separately. So this is how we begin here. So thank you, Nitika, for taking this idea further and coming to this stage. My volunteers, my students, they are the strengths. Everything is done by students here. We are just the audience watching them to be active and organizing all these events. So what is happening today is just because of the volunteers and the compare and all those. So a great round of applause for all our strength, which is students, and this campus belongs to them. That's how we tell it proudly. So thank you very much for making this event so successful. And thank you all. Please join us for high tea. And I invite you, sir, to inaugurate the students' academic exhibition, midterm academic exhibition. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What should I do? Rajiv, you tell it.
Audience, please stay for a moment. I would like to now request Professor Rajiv Kadam to make a small announcement, who is the BUD program coordinator.
Sorry. Hi, and good evening. In continuation of the urban dialogues, we welcome to initiate Urban Forma. It's a design competition initiative by Bachelors of Urban Design at Faculty of Planning. Through annual events, we aim to foster meaningful dialogues on city design, public spaces, and urban development. This year, we extend our invitations to school students in grades 9 to 12 to participate in Resilient Design Creative Minds, Building Stronger Cities, one brushstroke at a time, a national and a Gujarat state level